Okay, have you ever wondered how to add a breaker or change a broken breaker in your circuit breaker panel box, but maybe you were afraid to do so or you just didn't have the knowledge? Well, today you're gonna find out on the Home Tip Show. Okay, first step is to open up the panel and just take a look around. In this example, we're gonna be adding a breaker right here. We've already added it, but we're gonna pretend like we haven't. One of the things you notice first are these little metal louvers, and these are really meant to be as you add breakers. You grab a hold of these with a pair of pliers and just bend them and break them out. All right, so we've already broken out the one for this new 20 amp. For the 20 amp circuit I just finished installing in my garage. So we won't need to do that, but that's what those are for. They come out pretty easily, just have to twist them a few times, they pop out. All right, this is a Cutler hammer box. It's also a company called Eaton, and has a couple different types of breakers in it right now. It has 20 amp, 15 amp, 15 amp with what they call arc fault interrupters, and then a 220 down here. Excuse me. All right, so our first step is we have to take the 4 screws out of the corners. I like to start by hitting the bottom ones. And keep these close. Then we'll start to apply some pressure, and we'll take out our 2 top ones. And you can just let those fall, we'll pick them up later. Now, as you're removing this from the wall, be careful. The last thing you want to have happen is that it kind of fall in and hit any of that circuitry. Okay, all right, so what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna pretend that this breaker is broken and that we are replacing it with a new one. But I'm also kind of show how we connected it up to the original circuit and all that. So use your imagination a bit as we go through this. Let's start by identifying the wires that we are concerned with. These are the 3 wires that make up the new 20 amp circuit in our garage. As I told, if you happen to watch the video for the wiring of the garage, this red one should actually be a white, but the store, like every other store right now, they were out of supplies, and so I just made that a red instead of a white. Normally the screen would be a bare, like a bare copper wire, but it doesn't hurt anything to have it as a green, since this isn't a commercial job. And then the black is the hot. So let's kind of orient ourselves here a little bit with this panel. What we have here is a 100 amp service that's coming in from outside, where the house has a 200 amp service. So what they do here in North Carolina is it seems like they split it apart. They run 100 amps into the garage, and they use the other 100 amps outside for the air conditioning and furnaces and whatnot. So to orient ourselves, our circuit breakers go in the middle here. These wires here, these 4, if you look, there's one big thick piece of wire. This is what runs out to the outside 200 amp service, and there's 4 wires here. There is a 110 that runs over here down this side for these side of the breakers. There's another 110 that runs down this side of the breakers. There's this one with the black with the white line on it is the neutral. So there are 2 neutral bars in here. So there's anywhere you see those white wires plugged in, that's a neutral bar. But there's also a black piece of metal that runs across the back and connects over here. So we have another neutral bar right here, where we can attach, the white, or in our case, the red wires. And then we have one ground bar. So if you look at the aluminum ground wire that's coming in from the outside, it goes up and it attaches right into that particular, or that ground bar right there that has all of those copper wires and the green one right there in it. So what we're going to start by doing is, as we've identified the 3 wires that we are going to pretend like we're just now hooking up today, right? And these are the ones that power the garage circuits. Where do they go? Well, the green one, if you can follow along, it actually move up a little bit. This green one follows the path of those other bare wires, goes up the side, and then turns left. And looks like I need to go up a little farther. It goes into the bar right there, right? So it's just like it's a bare wire. And it's connecting, actually by connecting in there, it's connecting into this overall ground that goes outside and then goes to the ground that's physically in the ground and to the power company. This red one, which is actually our white wire. Let me go back down. This red one here will connect into the neutral bar right here along this side. I think you can see where it does connect. Wiggle it. And then the black one goes to our breaker, right? So the black wire that goes out to our circuits goes to this particular 20 amp breaker. So what I'm going to start by doing is just disconnecting a few things and showing you how you go about connecting in. Now, I could go outside and shut off the service to this so that I didn't have 220 volts at 100 amps staring me in the face. But most times you're connecting to a circuit panel, you don't shut off the power to it. At least I don't. And electricians I know, have become comfortable enough that they don't do it as well. So we'll go ahead and we're going to disconnect a few of the wires that we've connected. We'll start with this turn that breaker off. We'll start with that green. All it is a flat, and I'm using a screwdriver that's insulated, and this insulated screwdriver, as you're using it anywhere near the panel, never touch the metal part. You can be down here all day long. Just make sure it's in good shape, that there's no nicks or cuts where your fingers could possibly hit the metal part. And if it's a sweaty day and your hands are sweaty, keep your hands dry, because you can slip off and possibly get a good jolt. So I've go ahead and back up. I've disconnected I've loosened the wire right here, or the nut on the ground. And what I would do is, in a real life situation, if I was connecting that wire, I would strip off about, a 1/4 inch. I would find an open slot, put it in there, and just tighten that down. Again, being careful to not touch anything metal as I'm doing this. So, all right, that's good. The red wire, which is our white wire, we'll go down a little bit for that. So the red wire, it's really the same thing. When we connect to the white neutral, same thing. Put your screwdriver in, loosen up, whatever slot that you've chosen. Cut your wire to the appropriate length, Use your needle nose. Again, with your needle nose pliers, make sure that they're insulated. You do not want your fingers to touch down here. I'm not saying that it'll kill you, but if you had a pacemaker or you just generally don't like to get shocked, then try to keep your hands back on the insulated part. But same thing, we put that in, we would get it bent properly, and then just take it out, or put it right back in to the hole. So we're gonna put it right back in if we can get it to fit. Doesn't seem like it wants to now. Of course. Oh, there's why. Wrong one. All right, so we've got it in. Now we will tighten up that wire again, making sure that we're not touching anything but the insulated part. All right, so there we have now detached and attached our two least important wires, the neutral and the ground. The neutral being the white or red wire, and the ground being the bare or green wire. All right, so now for the most important one. I went ahead and flipped this breaker off, and this really, the black works pretty much the same way. Just a turn or two, it loosens up the wire, get my insulateds out, boom, it's out. All right, so if this was a bad breaker, my next step would just be to simply kind of grab it here by the front, pop it off of the copper, and just take it out. All right, and you may not have seen that because it was kind of low, but we'll do it again. If you notice, there's like teeth on this breaker. Now, every breaker is designed a little differently. Every company, you have Square D with their QO professional brand, and then their Homeline brand that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. And then you have Eaton and Cutler Hammer, who have a professional brand and a Homeline brand. This happens to be their professional brand. I originally bought a Cutler Hammer Eaton from Home Depot and tried to use it, and it wouldn't work. They just make them different enough that professionals can. I probably this is a better product. It was $12 for me. The lower end brand was only $4. But the way it works is these teeth just kind of wrap around not the ground bar, but this gray thing. I'm not going to touch it, but I'll show you. So all that simply does is kind of just wraps around there, and then this is a compression type fitting. So you push it in to this brass or to this copper here, and it'll grab it. So what that does then is it carries the electricity from the panel to this part right here, where the wire goes in. All right, so if you see when I tighten, you might not be able to see it, but as I tighten this, I'm gonna loosen it up. As I loosen it up, that area gets bigger, right? So when I put my wire in, I'm gonna try to hit the wire into the hole between the copper and the aluminum, and then I'll tighten that down. But let's go ahead and pretend like we have a new breaker here, which we actually do. And what we're gonna do is, again, we're gonna do that and then snap. That's it. That is it. That's all it takes to put in a breaker. And I can do it on either side. I can grab it here, pop it back off. Say I needed it on this side. Oh, well, let's just go over here. Boom, it's in. All right. So if this was if I needed 220 instead of 110, what I would do is it would be a double thick one. And when it went in, if you notice, remember that we have 110 on each side. So this copper bar and this copper bar are both 110, right? They just meet in the middle. And so if you need to get to 220, you buy a double one of these, and when you attach it, one side attaches to this 110, one side attaches to this 110. And if you look, I do have down here at the bottom on the left, there's a 30 amp, that's the dryer circuit. That is a 220, and it does exactly that, right? It attaches to both sides, but it can be on either side to do so because of the way and the versatility of how this is designed. Okay, so we'll go ahead and install our breaker for real this time, putting it on the right-hand side. So again, we're going to, here's one other thing that people like to do sometimes. Sometimes it's easier to actually attach this wire here before you click it in. I don't like to do it, but every now and then you'll get in a situation where you just can't seem to navigate into that hole properly. And so you can do it that way. I'm not gonna do it that way this time. I'm gonna do it the way I think most people do this. And we're gonna do that by stamping in the breaker first and then going from there. So here's our teeth. Our teeth are gonna go on this side here. And I can also, by the way, I can put it up here if I want to. I can put it here if I want to. We're just choosing to just keep it close because that's where we've knocked it out at. All right, so there, it's in. What I've just done is I've brought power from the right-hand copper bar through the breaker, through the circuitry in the breaker. And when I plug in there and I turn this on, power will now start flowing through that black wire. So let's go ahead and use our insulated, even though this isn't hot right here, you know, this is hot in other areas. So, all right, sometimes, like I said, sometimes with these can be easier to do it ahead of time before you snap it in, but we're gonna try to do it the way that I prefer to do it, and that is do it while it's, yeah, we got it, I think. Oh no, we didn't. All right. Try again. We're getting it. Oh yeah, we got it. Didn't feel like it, but I think we did. We'll give it one good more snug twist, and then we'll grab onto it with our, yep, we got it, we're good. And one of the things that I like to do is, when I'm working in a panel, is to keep my wires as neat as possible. And whoever did this wiring actually should be pretty proud of themselves. And if you look at all the bends are almost perfect. The wires are cut to the exact perfect length. Things are organized nicely. So, you know, I would be proud if I was the boss of the electrician who did this work. I would be proud of the job that they did here. So we'll just go ahead and flip that breaker on now and see what happens. We should be able to hear the refrigerator come back on if you listen closely. Ah, there it is. One of the nice things about this particular Pro line of circuit breakers is that there's a word here written called trip. So if this breaker does get tripped, meaning, you know, they pull more than 20 amps to it somewhere, a little red indicator flag appears in that window. And I'm not sure if you can see it on video or not. Maybe if I zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, you can see the window. That little red indicator flag appears there. Notice on these others, these are the low end, these are the contractor grade. It's still the upper end line of the Eaton Cutler hammer, but it's not quite as nice. So that probably had something to do with why that breaker was $12 and not $4. So let's go ahead and back out. Okay, so we've talked about the way the panel is oriented. This is a really easy thing to do. You just kind of have to be brave that first time when you're reaching in and routing wires, that you're being aware of where your hands are, what kind of tools you have. You want decent quality tools. Probably not, Walmart brand, unless actually Walmart's carrying some decent quality tools now. Their upper end lines. But not the Family Dollar type tools with the cheap plastic that breaks off in your hands. You want stuff with good rubberized handles when you're working in here. Like I said, I could have went out and turned off the breaker that feeds this 100 amp service, but really didn't feel like that there was a need to. So we're all wired up. We can hear the refrigerator running. We've got power to our chargers. Everything's good. The GFI over here didn't flip. So the final step in our process here is to reinstall the panel cover. And at this point we would normally bust out our knockout there where the new breaker is, but I've already done that. So really at this point we just need to be careful, kind of give it one last look, make sure no excess dust in there, cobwebs. We haven't left any tools in there. All the breakers are all in solidly. We haven't bumped anything. Everything looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and we'll attach this very carefully, making sure that we don't push too many of the breakers around too much. But these panels are never like smooth. They're always kind of a little bit bent, and so you just kind of have to finagle it. I don't know, is that a word, finagle? I think it is. My mom used to use it, so it had to be a word. We're gonna hand tighten the first couple, and hand tighten this top one, top two, get those in, then we'll move down to our bottom two. Still looking good. Yep, everything's still lined up nicely. And for some reason, this screw over here was about 20 inches long. Actually, about 3 inches. Get our tools out, and we'll go ahead and zip those in. I know some electricians do not like these to be tightened. They like to leave them, I would say, hand loose, just because you're not getting in there very often, and when you do need in there and it's the middle of the night and you're needing to flip a breaker a certain direction or replace something, the last thing you want to worry about is finding a screw gun to do this. So a little bit stripped out, so we're gonna run it in a little bit different direction. Maybe we can catch some wood or something. Boom. Done. Congratulations. You now know how to install a breaker or replace a broken breaker in your panel. So if you want to run new lights anywhere in your house, if you want to do what we've done and put new circuits in your garage, switch a 15 amp to a 20 amp. Now remember, you can't do that just by changing the breaker. You also have to go from 14 gauge wire to 12 gauge wire. All right, so that's a rule that's important to remember. 15 amp circuits run on 14 gauge wire, and 20 amp circuits run on 12 gauge wire. 12 gauge wire is a bear to work with. That's why most of the receptacles in your house are that's not the only reason. Usually you don't need more than 15 amps for most things in the house, except things like vacuum cleaners and whatnot. But that's it. Thank you very much.